Hello, and thank you for stopping by to yet another edition of the Massachusetts Beer Reviews program on YouTube. My name is Thomas Metal75. That
Hey, I'm Dave from Bell. How you doing?
you've probably seen him before, I bet you.
A time or two, maybe.
Yeah, and this is going to be your Massachusetts Beer Review on behalf of Bumpy Isms, formerly known as Bumpy Road. You know him, you love him from the Bumpy Isms channel of YouTube up there in the great state of New Hampshire.
So, Tommy, I heard we got something from good old Bumpy. What you got there?
Yeah, so here's a little backstory. We got a 750
Talk to me about it.
milliliter
What's going on here?
wine-esque bottle here. So we were with the legendary beer man in September. Yes, he was here live in the flesh. Somehow Dave missed that.
Hey, when you're working, man.
So we call it the Beer Gathering 2024.
We communicate.
I forget where we were in time, but during this particular time where this beer kind of comes into play, is we were on our way to Littleton, New Hampshire, in the White Mountains to go to a Schilling Beer Company. Somehow, me and my dumbass car get rerouted through the GPS, and then it takes me through a 3.5-mile literal road inside of a mountain. And everybody else was at Schilling already. They were all having their good time. I'm like, just get me out of this car. I finally got there. I see Bumpy come over to the car and go, hey, I think, don't get out of the car yet. I'm like, what? We gotta go to another brewery. We gotta go. So, in him feeling really bad about that situation, later on during the trip, he gifted me this particular beer. So I appreciate it, Bumpy. There's the backstory. And this beer is called Lavandula, which is an American wild ale with lavender in collaboration with Keeping Together and Olfactory.
Sounds like this Bumpy guy is a hell of a guy to know.
Yeah, he's pretty good. I'll tell you that. Go check out his channel, Bumpy Isms. I'll put it in the description of the video down there.
Guys, give him a look.
5.6% ABV. Backstory. Lavandula is a collaborative wild ale developed with our friends Averny Swanson from Keeping Together and Phil Emerson Olfactory Brewing. I believe Keeping Together is Chicago, Illinois, and Olfactory is San Francisco. Nano Breweries, if I believe correctly. Features a New Mexican lavender from Avery, and a yeast bacteria blend from Phil's archive. Rested overnight in our cool ship, Lavandula spent 6 months in stainless steel prior to bottle conditioning. The result is a wild beer as fittingly unique and engaging as our friends who helped join us to make it in September 2023. A portion of each of the bottles' proceeds will be donated to Keeping Together as they recover from a devastating pre-opening financial loss. Wow. There you go. So go check out those breweries, Keeping Together and Olfactory, if you ever see them in your area. All right.
Ooh. So, Tom, boy, let's christen this thing and see what we got here.
Let's see if we can... There we go. Open the bottle, shall we? All right. Ooh. It's coming.
All right. Let's see what we got here, Tom, boy.
Ooh.
That looks interesting right off the bat. Not so heavily carbonated. I can see that right off the bat. So,
all right.
What do you got?
Let us see, shall we?
All right.
I'll leave a little room for nosers. It is popping and fizzing, definitely. And there goes the head.
It goes pretty fast.
Sometimes I don't expect a head on some of these kind of... You can't even see that. Some of these kind of beers. Right, very lemon juicy in color, I would say. Kind of on a honey gold lemon juicy color, maybe?
Yeah.
Somewhere in between there. Very popping and fizzing. I smelled immediately like a cereal grain and cinnamon. You get any cinnamon or something like that?
A little citrus. Like
a
little bit of citrus.
Why did it remind me of like cinnamon Apple Jacks or something in a way?
Well, the fruit, exactly.
Yeah.
You're probably thinking of that case.
I'm not getting anything that reminds me of like super tart wild yeast currently. Maybe just a little bit in the background, some earthy note.
I actually can smell a little bit of the earthiness, a little bit. It's much that clean smell, you know?
Yeah, like a white bready malt or something.
Yeah.
Anything else? I felt like I got a lot of cinnamon and you said citrus.
It's not off-putting. It's not high in ABV where you get a smell.
No.
You know the booze.
5.6, nah.
So you know what the weight is for a
Yep.
5-6 weight class.
Very spicy. You said a little. Did you say floral or you said citrus, but maybe some floral notes. Yeah, not what I was expecting for a wild yeast strain beer. This smells pretty interesting.
So let's hunt.
Let's see. Schilling Beer Company. Bumpy isms. Thank you for the beer.
Thanks, Bump.
Hey, much more lively in the carbonation than it looks like it would be.
It's got more of a wine kind of feel for it. You can give it kind of
Yeah,
thing?
definitely. Yeah, some of these wild yeast strain beers will do that to you. Like a white wine.
Like,
grape.
am I losing my mind or my senses if I say kind of a wine kind of feel for it,
I don't disagree with that. I'm still getting like a spiced baking variety.
Like an apple kind of thing.
Like an apple.
Kind of getting that, yeah.
Apple fritter. That's the one.
That would be what it probably kind of like a light apple fritter kind of routine,
With the lactic tart element in the background.
Yeah,
Not lemony.
So apple fritter, that's like cinnamon sugar, if I'm not mistaken. Correct?
Yeah, so I'm getting some of that on the tongue immediately.
Thinking exactly at that point, like cutting the sugar like more basically, and like the mix in the middle of the point, more of the apple good stuff.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, that's what I'm kind of getting.
The actual fruit component to that.
Correct.
The stewed fruit component you're getting there.
Not ain't the top at that point, ain't like straight from the mid.
It is supercharged in carbonation. It's very effervescent.
It plays very, very well, though. It really does. Like, even though the carb, it doesn't have much of a head for it, or really to support it. But yeah, it feels like a little bit, like a light bubble here and there, exactly. Not like
spritzy.
Spritzy might be a good word for it. I mean, talk to me about the weight class, exactly like the mouthfeel kind of routine.
Body, mouthfeel.
Yeah. I mean, it's not light as water. I'm not going to even put that on the table there.
I would say medium. One could say medium plus towards a fuller body. I would say medium on that for me.
I'd say medium because you're not basically dealing with
full flavored.
You're not dealing with a heavy weight class, kind of what you expect from like a stout exactly.
No, I wouldn't expect that with a wild yeast strain beer.
I want to make sure we basically establish basically a top basically versus a light kind of routine,
So, and therefore, the next thing I would think about is crisp, clean, ultra refreshing. Is it crisp? Definitely.
Yeah.
Is it clean? It certainly has a drying quality about it after a little while, so maybe that will or bring itself to that flavor.
I take a sip of the point and tell me about dissipation. Would you give it like maybe finish for like maybe like what 2 seconds at max to the current point in time before it like washes away?
Well, I feel like your definition of your fruit flavors you're getting, and my definition of my cinnamon note that I'm getting, apple frittery thing in the middle of the taste.
Correct.
I feel like maybe that's what goes away in that immediate amount of time, in that first couple of seconds, and then I get left with the tart puckering sort of element. Not overly puckering, but just like a super tart flavor. That's the last thing that lingers.
A light tart, like if you would like take the top basically off, like kind of shave with a razor blade kind of routine, like that kind of routine. I mean, what are you thinking here?
I don't know if I would have said it that way, but I get where as Alex the Beer Master would say, I get what you're spraying.
Well, I mean, have you would describe it at that point, because you know what I'm trying to hunt for here.
White grape must. There's a white grape in this, definitely. You said wine. It's another thing that rings to my bell.
Upon first inception.
Rings to me, yeah. Yeah. So this isn't something I would want all the time. I do feel like this would get acidic and therefore cloying in that respect. I think the acidity can be a little bit cloying. It's not the most acidic sour beer I've ever had, but I feel like that will get a little bit cloying after a while.
I can't even say it's to be sour at all. It doesn't even
just tart. Just tart with acidic notes.
Correct. So I can't say it's sour.
It's not like you're getting a heavily fruited sour here that looks like a smoothie from 7-Eleven. We're not talking about that.
Or you have a
just heavily fruited sour
thing.
Yeah, we're not talking about that kind of a souring element. We're talking about souring element that comes from this being a wild yeast strain beer.
Like something that's had some time to kind of like drop down.
Yeah, and most likely what happens is that it's an open tank fermentation where that wild yeast strain is eating what's ever in the air and is creating this.
Like ripping at it, yeah.
Yeah, and that's how the yeast is fermenting.
I don't think you're wrong.
Creating its fermentables. I feel like this would be really, really, really good in the fall time with that harvesty, cinnamon, spicy. You said apple. I agree with that. That is sort of a thing that happens in the finish. I get more of the apple note, or maybe like the skin of the apple. Like the apple cider. Maybe that's the word I'm looking for. Unfiltered apple cider.
Tom, boy, if I was to basically aim for it, I would say this would be more of a spring, fall, and maybe a unique light, like, I wouldn't say dessert at that point, but more like a freshener, basically, for like the winter basically kind of months and everything, you know?
Apparently any time of the year, if you ask Dave.
I didn't say summer. I did not say summer. I would not. This ain't something I want to correct on this.
Give me this at the beginning of August and September.
Well, it's enough to wake you up and say, like, okay, well, this has been a harvest.
Here's what it looks like currently.
So, Tom,
what are you thinking about overall with the beer?
I guess the question I have to ask you here exactly is, how high do we want to score this thing?
Out of 100 for us, please.
Out of 100. Okay.
That's normally what I do in a beer review.
All right. Well, first things first at that point, it's going to be above a 70. I know that for a hard fact. It has to be, exactly, just from my own taste.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Tommy, what are you thinking at the point in time? Because I'm kind of...
He is playing a game of poker, and he said check. All right. This is a very unique wild yeast strain beer. I've not had one like this. I'm sure the Lavandula flowers or whatever it is here is it's giving us all of that kind of flavor. And I suppose one would say honey as well. I think of that too.
Get a tinge of sweetness.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, something like that. Not my favorite beer on the face of the planet Earth for wild ales, but I like this for it being very unique in quality. It's easy to drink. I do think it would get a little acidic over time in the stomach piece. Not something I would want to go back to multiple glasses, maybe 2 or 3. I would give this a 80. I'm going with an 87 out of 100, I think.
You know, first thing kind of start off the bat too as well. I knew this wasn't going to be from the 90 to 100 range. I was thinking like more or less myself like an 87. I feel very comfortable with that.
We can. There's my support beam. We can split it down the middle. 87 right there, baby.
And again, some people say at the point B+ players here and there. You know, I'd say some B+ players actually make the weight. And I'd say this is what actually does make the weight.
This is good. I don't know what this particular beer costs. I don't even know if it's around anymore. All I know is they say the result is a wild beer as fittingly unique and engaging as our friends who joined us to make it in September 2023. So at least it was a 2023.
Here's a question for you, Tom, right off the bat.
Yeah.
Okay, looking at this bottle right now, would you actually buy it?
Yeah, I would.
No, Tommy, I guess if I would ask you, what would you put a price point basically on this bottle?
No more than $15.
I'd say 20 being the absolute max of the point, and I feel very solid.
I guess I can buy that.
Solid buy range of the points, maybe minimum 14, so kind of that happy range right there.
Give me the large range of between 10 and 20, and we're good. No more than 20, and I think this is a better beer than $10.
It'll lot better. That's what I'm saying. Basically, minimum you cut it 14. That I have to respect it. What it is too.
I'm gonna split hairs here and go between 12 and 15 would be a good price.
Well, that's the way I kind of look at it. Yeah, again, I'm looking at it from anywhere you could possibly get it.
Yeah.
And the reason why I say that is because when I had this and tried this with you right now, I thought to myself something a little different. For the people that love like wine, okay, and again. People love wine. No problem with that whatsoever.
White wine flavors.
If I was to give you this in a glass and tell you to sip it, you actually might close your eyes and you're like, this could feel like exactly like a very good kind of like almost white wine kind of feel to a little champagne-esque kind of root.
Champagne, yeah. Maybe even like a semi-dry cider or something.
Correct. And I'm looking at this.
Champagne, yeah.
And I don't want to do it dirty. So I have to basically represent exactly for some of the better qualities for, people that... traditionally are not beer drinking, basically people in the community.
Yeah, this would be interesting. This is definitely a good reprieve from normal styles of beer you think of.
I would say this is more of a refreshing kind of like feel for it.
Bam!
So that's why I had to put it as a minimum as a 14, and max as a 20.
Good.
And I think that's very comfortable.
Hey, this has been Bumpy Isms treat here tonight. Thank you, Bumpy.
Thank you, Bumpy.
Very much appreciated for the gift over the September 2024 Beer Man Gathering. Thank you. Links to Bumpy Isms channel. I'm sure you've seen it if you're on my channel, but his link is below. And I'd like to thank Dave Rumbell. He doesn't have a channel yet, but you've seen him on this one. numerous times. I'd like to thank him for joining.
Things are underway, as always.
Boom. We got some beer to drink, and you have yourself a great rest of your morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you're watching this program. And until next time, keep tasting those great beers. Cheers. We'll see you soon.
See ya. Thanks, y'all.